Good afternoon. Welcome to the Farmers Branch Chamber Chat. We're here with our House District 115 representative, Julie Johnson. How are you today, Julie?
I'm great, Grace. How are you doing?
Doing
It's a beautiful day today here in Farmers Branch.
It is. I'm not generally a fall weather person, but it is kind of enjoyable from 100 degrees.
Oh, these are the sweet spots of why we live in Texas. We only have like a few of these a year. Today it's gorgeous out. A lot of people are out campaigning this weekend because it's so pretty.
I believe that. And, we're on the heels of a presidential debate starting tonight. So tis the season for politicking.
Tis the season. It is. It's good. But that's a good thing. I mean, people need to be engaged in our democracy, and they need to know who their candidates are. They need to know the issues. They need to be informed voters. I think it's a great thing.
Yes, I've always said, civic engagement is super important. And if nothing else, it reserves your right to complain. You can either be like, oh, that's why I didn't vote for you, or yes, that's why I voted for you, or either way. But, I feel like if you don't engage and you don't do your part, then you really shouldn't be whining or complaining. And, that you just participate in the process is so important. So thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more.
So let's dive right in, where our focus today is really just on economic recovery. So I'm going to kind of just open this up for you. First of all, perhaps you can speak to what you have done during the course of COVID, and obviously you are a current representative. So what you've done in terms of advocating for business and what your platform is moving forward.
Well, sure. I think whenever you have a difficult time like this, one of the most important things that I've heard from everyone I've spoken with in our district and businesses has been most challenging for them is the lack of consistency in terms of policy and not knowing what to do. And unfortunately, I think our governor's done some things right, and I think he's done several things wrong. And one of the things that's been difficult is coming out of the state leadership is a lack of consistency of policy. And, are we mask mandating? Are we not mask mandating? Are we opening all business? Are we only opening some businesses? Oh, we're going to close back up. Oh, we're going to do this. And not being able to adequately plan. I think most people can, in business in particular, we have contingency plans, right, for different things. And, I have a business as well. I employ about 15 people, and, I've had my own business, and I've had to contingency plan for how this works as well. And so, I think that's been one of the biggest problems is since, the governor's been leading this effort, I think that's been one of the biggest complications is we haven't had a consistent set of rules to follow. And then I think secondly, just this inconsistent messaging about public health and do masks, are they important? And what are we going to do to try to stop this pandemic and end it so that we can also move forward and stop this environment that we're in where people are not able to operate their businesses at full capacity. And what does that mean? And where does the public health component come in with that? But I think in terms of our office, one of the things that we've been able to do is really be an advocate and a resource for so many people in Farmers Branch who are searching and needing for benefits. So, we've had, getting unemployment benefits has been a key component of people's survival, and trying to make sure they have income supplementation so that they can keep their bills, pay their rent, so then that their landlord can pay their mortgage, their payment, and then that finance company can keep their employee. It's a big role of economic opportunity. So we've helped thousands of people navigate the quagmire of getting their benefits in place, which has been really, really critical because people will call, they'll be on hold with the Texas Workforce Commission for days. They'll call and say, I can't get through. I've been calling. I'm really anxious. I'm really worried about, am I going to be, eligible for this benefit or that benefit? And we're able to really cut through the quagmire. We have back phone numbers. We can get called right away. And we've been able to really help a lot of people get the services that they need from the state. And that involves rental assistance, that involves some business programs that the county's offering, that the state's offering, just different things that people can use, payroll protection programs, just as many resources as we have available that we can help our constituents with to manage this difficult time is really where our focus has been.
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head there. One thing that I have, questioned and right, we're trying to reshare the information with businesses as the chamber. And yeah, they're like, wait, what, this, that. And, there's, for example, one that, I keep running up against is, okay, the gatherings are limited to 10 or half capacity. And so I've been at, a luncheon in a country club that's got, 60, 80 people there and, they are at half or less capacity. But, so you're like, and as a chamber who runs events as a large portion of what we do to serve our business community, I've kind of just had to scratch my head and say, okay, which of these is it? Is it both and either or?
Right. There's just no clear direction. And that's been one of the biggest, I think, complicating factors in this entire thing is there's not been consistency of rules that make sense, that are easily followed and consistently followed to really, minimize the impact and maximize a business's opportunity to flourish. So it's been a tough time for a lot of folks.
So what do you feel like is, your economic recovery plan or recommendations for moving our district forward?
Well, I feel like we have to get through this pandemic. We have to get through the COVID before anything can really get going. So we need to continue to be public health stewards to make sure that we get beyond this to where our society can move forward. But we also have to advocate for programs for people to work, like childcare. I think childcare has been one of the single biggest obstacles for business in terms of getting their workforce back. And what are people supposed to do with their kids? Are their kids going to school? Are they not going to school? Are the daycares open? Are they not open? And just even beyond COVID, but just childcare in general is an issue that we really do need to study. There's been several economic studies that show that even here in the Metroplex, that if we can provide affordable childcare, that's a $40 million boost to our economy just by adding, more people into the workforce. So I think that's dealing with childcare is a big issue. We have a guest in our screen here.
Yes. Clearly, I didn't lock her away before.
Yes, we have a friend that's come to visit.
She normally minds her own business, but apparently she's curious today.
Like, what's going on here? This sounds like a lot of fun.
I was like, we're just going to pretend she's not there, maybe push her off the table. All right.
Right. And then, so I think really getting that back in play is just getting our workforce, getting our schools open fully, getting our workforce able to go back to work is huge towards, and just getting this pandemic over, getting people to do what they need to do so this just ends, and not perpetuating the problems by not just dealing with it, ending it and moving on, getting better and moving on. But I think, one of the things that's really highlighted, that COVID's highlighted is healthcare and a lack of healthcare access. And when we have so many millions of Texans that don't have healthcare, and that's a huge problem here in Farmers Branch and in our community here. A lot of businesses aren't able to afford health insurance for their employees, especially in the service sector. And, that's been one of the sectors that's been most hardest hit by the pandemic and economic survival. We've seen all these restaurants and other problems having us struggling with health access. And when their employees don't have access to health insurance or care, because our systems are too expensive, we don't have a good structure to make sure that we've broadened our insured net, then they don't go to the doctor, they don't get early intervention, it gets worse. And then they, if they could get early testing, then maybe they don't spread it to their other coworkers, and then all of the workforce of one restaurant's out. So I think it's really highlighted the need for healthcare policy and healthcare legislation. And that, that's been something I focused a lot on last session and something I intend to focus a lot on next session as well.
Yes, and I think, you brought up earlier, and again with healthcare, so many of these things cause a ripple effect.
Mm-hmm.
I've personally sat with, business owners just in their hard space in the midst of this. And, when they're between paying their mortgage or paying their employees and their employees being able to pay their bills, their mortgage, there's really such a domino effect in terms of healthcare versus the financial implications that it has both for a business and an individual. And we have a couple comments here. One of our board members, Stacey Givens, hopped on and she said, striking the balance between public health and business growth is hard. And what businesses have done to be innovative at this time has just been amazing. Do you have any particular stories that have just pinged your radar of great things that businesses have done that were unique, innovative, caring for one another or the community?
Well, I think, a lot of businesses have stepped up in different ways, right? When we were in such an acute care, a lot of people donated food to healthcare workers who were just working around the clock and their families. I've volunteered many times at MetroCrest Services, helping to provide food for those out of work, making sure that their families can get fed. And a lot of businesses have been supportive of that effort and have, had teams where they've gone over there and worked for a day or this, that, and the other. And then I think we see it also in terms of the creativity of the use of their space. Like at Coquitas, we have this whole new wonderful outside dining area there now. And, you just see that people are just being creative in how they can safely serve their customers, with the invention of, curbside services and deliveries and just everything else in terms of how to maintain the stream of commerce and accessing your customers has been important. And I think just creating an environment where your customers feel safe to be there and that's safe for your workforce so that they don't get sick and then your business can survive. I think that's really important.
Yes, in the middle of this, I thought at one point, never have I ever, ordered a margarita to go. But
and I think that's something, alcohol to go is a big issue. There's been, and I think a lot of us are very open to making that a permanent law. I think that the governor's, emergency orders on that, and that really helps restaurant businesses, and because that's where a lot of their margins are. And, if you're going to have delivery service, and if you're ordering fajitas, you may as well order some margaritas and it can all be delivered to your door and you're at home, you're not driving, there's so many other reasons why that's okay. And so I think that's definitely something that we'll take a look at in the legislature this next session, is allowing restaurants to have more flexibility of their alcohol to go service.
Yeah. And I feel like that's, one of those things that I'm sure is difficult, when you zoom out from a policy, a legal perspective. How do we make sure it's, not the wrong kind of open container in a delivery vehicle, or that it is getting delivered to somebody who's 21 years of age or older? I'm sure there's a lot of factors that have to be evaluated there, but restaurants do thrive on their dinner sales and alcohol sales in the evening time. And so
so I think that, like that emergency order that the governor put out, I think was a good one. Because it was the lifeline to restaurants to be able to stay open. Because, when people were doing to go, they're not ordering drinks, they're not ordering extra desserts necessarily, they're not ordering alcohol, and they're not tipping as well. And that's where the margins are. That's where the profits are. So I was glad that he did that. I think that really seemed to help a lot of folks.
So next question, as a chamber of commerce, right, our constituents, for the chamber are businesses. And, when it comes to a city like Farmers Branch, I'm sure maybe not everybody on here is aware, but we have this daytime population influx in which many people who work here, own a business here, don't necessarily reside here and therefore don't get to vote here. So how would you, as representative, how have you, if reelected in the future, how will you represent those voices as part of your constituents, even though they may not get to vote for you?
Well, I have a Jobs with Julie program. And what I've done is I've gone into different businesses throughout our district. I spent a day working with them, understanding the issues that they face, meeting and visiting with their employers, visiting with and doing some of the work for a little bit. And I've done that through a wide variety of business sectors. And the owners of those businesses don't always live here. And, that's just where their business is. And so I think it's just about always having an open door to not only the voters, but the businesses that serve the district, and making sure that we meet their needs and that we listen to them and are willing to meet with them. And like for me, I go to their business. I want to understand the issues that they're facing, what's working, what's not working, and highlight that. And we usually post about it and, come up with hopefully different ideas that we can transcend into the legislature to help them. But I think the main thing is, for me, we have an open door policy. If anybody wants to meet with me and talk to me and share about an issue or concern that they have, whether they own a business in the district, whether they vote in this district or whatever, we're always happy to meet with anyone.
Well, that's encouraging. We definitely
that's how it should be. We're here in public service. And so if we have the ability to help somebody, and if they want to be heard, we always have an open door.
And I can testify. I mean, I appreciate that as the new leader of this local chamber. You've been super responsive to me. Appreciate you advocating for chambers with the CARES funding and that kind of stuff. So
that's right. We sent a letter to make sure that chambers were included in that. Part of it, it's a give and take. You have to have open dialogue. You have to put in the work to establish relationships like you and I have, like I have with Mayor Dye, like I have with the mayors of the other cities in our district and the other chambers in our district and school boards, to communicate about the issues that they have. So we're made aware of an issue. We sent a letter addressing that issue, and we were able to help get some more funding. So, that's how the process is supposed to work. Somebody who can have open communication, work easily with everyone to make it better.
So what kind of role does legislation, or will potentially legislation, play in terms of HR policy recommendations, both as it pertains to, right, we understand like the employee side and trying to get better healthcare for the employees. What other, components are there for employers, employees that our business community should be aware of?
For what's probably trending in the upcoming session, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't heard a lot of discussion or rumblings about anything significant in the human resources space. Other than, I don't see a minimum wage bill coming through this session. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But I certainly haven't seen talk about it, and it certainly hasn't been on anyone's primary agendas that I've seen. I think probably the thing that is going to be most important is we have a budget deficit. We're going to have to make sure that we make sound decisions about that and what we're going to do to curb our budget shortfall in the state. Obviously, we want to resist any kind of new taxation, and we want to look at current loopholes. There's $45 billion of current tax exemptions that are out there, and some of those are outdated. They're technologically not necessary or justified any further. And so I know that the Democratic caucus, and I presume the Republican caucus is doing this as well, but I know that we have a team studying all those exemptions to see avenues that we can kind of cut those so that we're not faced with any kind of a revenue generating situation. People are burdened enough, and we certainly don't need to look at taxes or anything. So I think we've got to figure out how we're going to balance our budget next year. And that's probably going to be the biggest, most important issue that we deal with.
And just open the floor for you. Is there anything else you would like to say to the community at large? We have, a cross section of, employees, parents, people with the school district, people who might be single, young professionals. Mm-hmm. What would you like to just say to the community? I'm just going to open the floor for you.
Well, that's great. Well, it's an honor to be a representative. I try very hard to operate in a bipartisan fashion and actually get stuff done. I think that's very important that we legislate from the middle and not from the edges. And that's how we actually get good consensus and good legislation. An example of that is the education bill that we were able to pass last past session. the session before, they were deadlocked. They couldn't get anything done. We flipped seats. The chamber narrowed in partisanship, and we were able to pass an $11 billion bill that really helped Carrollton Farmers Branch School District in particular. We were able to provide an extra $37 million into the school district while providing the residents here a property tax cut. So that was a win-win, and anytime we can cut taxes and improve services, I think that's a good win for all. And that happened because we had a more balanced legislature in terms of partisanship. And I think we're headed to that even more so with this election. The House, many talk about, is the House going to flip blue and all that kind of stuff. Regardless of where it comes, we're going to be much more closer to the middle. And it's important that we work together. And I have very close relationships with many of my Republican colleagues. And I was really pleased to be Texas Monthly Freshman of the Year this past session for being able to do just that and really work across the aisle and work on good, sound policy that benefits business, benefits schools, and hopefully improve healthcare. I think those are all things that have to be our fundamental, most important priority, because that's where we're struggling the most, and that's what I intend to do. But Farmers Branch is a great place. I will say some interesting data that people might be interested in is, we're up in a redistricting year. And, we have to really look at the boundaries of the House districts. Well, there's 14 House districts in Dallas County, and ours, House 115, has had the largest population growth of any of them. And I think it's because we have great schools. We have Carrollton Farmers Branch School District. We have Coppell Independent School District. We have great schools here. We have well-run cities that are beautiful, and people want to live here. And I think that's a testament to a job well done by a lot of the local leaders and, everyone trying to do their best.
Yes, it's definitely, when I came to Farmers Branch a couple years ago, this just really is a sweet community, a little hidden gem here in the region of the Metroplex. And, I just want to, number one, disclaimer, blanket statement, the Chamber is a nonpartisan organization. We're going to, host all of our representatives for those of you out there wondering. But, I really like what you said about unity. Really, when I look across social media and, media in general, for me, as a young person, it's really disheartening to see the division, the dishonor, the disrespect. And, honor is one of my personal values that I feel like is really lost in this culture and in this, current society. And so, I think clearly when the country is basically split 50-50 and there's a lot of very strong arguments on both sides, it is, how do we, come to a place that we can honor each other and together find the best way to move forward? Because this is a large country with a lot of people in it, with a lot of different needs. But, I personally am a fan of the Constitution and love what we were founded on, love what we stand for, and, look forward to continuing to protect the American dream of being able to own your own business. And
absolutely. I mean, the businesses, and, I love being a business owner. I love being the fact that I've owned my business for 25 years. I was 29 when I left a big law firm that I worked for, and I opened up my own practice. And I've had a very successful career, and that the ability to be independent and be a female business owner and employ people and give people stability and be a good employer. My number one legal assistants worked for me for 22 years. You have the ability to be a good boss and understand what all that is. I'm a firm believer that we have to have a strong business climate for our economy, our societies to succeed, and a strong foundation in education. Because if we educate our people, then they become financially independent. They have the ability to take care of themselves and pursue whatever creative things we have. One of the best things that I think came out of the session that really CFBISD has benefited from is the mandatory pre-K bill that really gave pre-K early education opportunities for 4-year-olds. And that because the research shows that if you're reading literate by 3rd grade, you have a 70% less likelihood of being incarcerated. So investing in that early education is one of the best things that we did, and it's something I'm most proud of that we were able to accomplish. And I was able to co-author that bill, and I'm very proud of that.
Yes, and I feel like that's a basic, pretty hopefully well-known statistic nowadays. But when you look across the globe, there is a direct correlation between literacy and, poverty levels. And, the more literate a country comes, the more prosperous it becomes. So awesome. And to that note, I'm just going to chime in a little shameless plug here. We're actually working on building a workforce development program. I've started conversations with Dr. Brady at Dallas College, Brookhaven campus. And so we're excited to see, what we can do in order to help, reskill, upskill the workforce. As you mentioned, the service industry has been hard hit. And so we need to give, those individuals certifications, the education, training, whatever we need to do to bridge that gap that may not look like an associate's degree with arts and humanities and all the things, but how can we, give them practical tools, skills, education in order to bridge that gap and help them have meaningful work. So
that's critically important, and I applaud Brookhaven and Dallas College for doing that. They're partnering with many employers to get, employment, they say, okay, you're a large employer and we need these skills. Okay, well, we're going to look at educating these skills to provide you the workforce that you need. And I think those are very, very important communications. I definitely think that the business community and the educational community need to communicate more.
Yes, because ultimately, if as an employer, if we're frustrated about what's coming out of the school system, then we need to be inputting in, to me, a term I use a lot is reverse engineering. And, we need to take our corporations, our small, medium, all size businesses and, discover, okay, what do you need? Where are the gaps? And how do we, again, reverse engineer processes, programs, internships, apprenticeships in order to have, help integrate into the workforce, more quickly, more seamlessly. Not everybody can go to university and wait 4 years before they start their professional career and making a living wage. And so the more that we can tighten, those gaps and help them, then we see, again, prosperous communities that are drug-free, crime-free. It just has all of these things have such a ripple effect.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You're right on point. I totally agree.
All right. Well, how can people get a hold of you? Do you want us to put your email in the chat comments? What's the best way?
Absolutely. You can reach me at Julie Johnson for Texas. And, find us on Facebook. A lot of people here have my cell phone and call me anytime. But we want to be a resource. I guess my message to you, Farmers Branch Chamber community, is we're here to be a resource for your business, to help. I hope you'll invite me to come do a Jobs with Julie with you and highlight the work you do and in the business that you serve and how it's important in our economy. I'd be thrilled to do that and look forward to working with you. But just let me remind everybody to vote. We need everybody to turn out and vote and participate in our democracy. It's the greatest one on earth. Early voting starts October 13th. You can vote at Brookhaven. And it's a wonderful site. They have a big room. It's safe. And I believe the other location has been moved from City Hall to the library. So I think where people are used to voting at City Hall, I don't think that the space was big enough. And I think they've moved it to the library, if I'm not mistaken. And it starts October 13th.
Awesome. And official elections are November 3rd, and there's a presidential debate starting tonight. So thank you for being here, Julie. Please let us know as a chamber how we can continue to, bring information from you to the community. We're here to really help be the voice of small business, and our goal is to, bridge the gap between business, government, legislation. So we are equally here to serve, both our officials and our business community at large. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
And thank you all for joining us. We have a few upcoming events. Tomorrow morning, Wednesdays, we're doing 8 a.m. Sunrise Networking on Zoom. So please shoot us a message on Facebook or an email for the Zoom link. And this Friday, we'll be meeting at the Historical Park for our first Friday luncheon. All that information is available on our chamber website, farmersbranchchamber.org, and on our Facebook. Thanks for joining us.